Hey guys, and welcome back to r/EntitledPeople. Hope you're all doing well. Be sure to like and subscribe, and let's get right into today's Reddit stories. Never touch your truck again? You got it, neighbor. I'm a 59-year-old male living in a major city in Ontario, Canada. I live in a small subdivision and have 5 neighbors total on my street. For the past few years during the winter, when we're getting a lot of snow or bad storms, as I'm leaving for my overnight shift at around 8 to 9 p.m., I'll put my wife's windshield wipers up on her car and do a quick walk around to my other 5 neighbors and put their windshield wipers up on their cars. Obviously not if they're outside or something, but if it looks like they're in for the night. Many of them forget to do this, as many of them have children and it typically slips their mind, and their wipers will be frozen to their car in the morning. It's just something nice I like to do to look out for my neighbors. They're all always grateful for this and thank me for it. Many of them started doing it too, and there will be nights where I forget to put mine and my wife's up, and in the morning one of the neighbors has done it for us. Anyway, recently one of our neighbors moved, and a new family moved in as of last week. It's a young couple and their 2 children. The other night I was leaving for my overnight shift at around 9 p.m. It was snowing really heavy, and we were supposed to be getting almost 30 centimeters of snow, and it was freezing out. So I put my wife's wipers up and do my usual quick walk around to the other neighbors. I was hesitant when I reached my new neighbor's house, as I've only introduced myself once, but I did it anyway. As I was putting the second wiper up on their pickup truck, the husband came charging out of his front door yelling, "Hey, what the f*** are you doing to my truck?" I tried to explain to him I was just putting his wipers up to help him. He continued to scream at me to get the hell off my property and don't touch my shit again. The wife then came out and started yelling at me too. I apologized and started walking away. Some of my other neighbors heard the commotion and came outside to see what was happening. They tried explaining to him too that it's just something that we do. Both of them weren't having it. Fast forward to this morning. I'm arriving home from my overnight shift, and as I'm walking in, I see the wife of this couple struggling outside to break the ice off the windshield wipers of the truck. I guess she was trying to take her kids to school, and the wipers were frozen solid on the car. She sees me and yells over, "Hey there, do you mind giving me a hand, please?" I look over to her and yell back, "No, sorry, thought I was to never touch your shit again, ma'am," and walked back inside. She yelled back at me, "Wow." I told my wife about this. She thinks I should have helped her because she was just trying to get her kids to school. I disagree, as I was just following what they told me. Yeah, come on, who cares if she's trying to get her kids to school? They did tell them after all to not touch their truck. If she did apologize about the other day and say, sorry, I overreacted, then sure, I bet OP would have been nice enough to help out. But she instead just acted like it never even happened, while still having the guts to ask for help about the same thing he got yelled at for. The irony. Former employee turns me in for fraud, enlists his father/lawyer to push it. I was a public employee for many years. I had a middle management role for about 20 years. I reported to a department head who reported to the mayor. I had a small staff, typically 5 to 10 people who were mostly part-time. They rotated every few years, and I tried my best to make their time with me valuable. I helped them pad out their resumes, paid for trainings, and more. Tim was initially a decent employee, but quickly decided he was the greatest employee of all time. His overconfidence often led to mistakes or being overextended, and he needed bailed out. He was good at basic tasks, but had a hard time with math, grammar, and interacting with adults. Part of my job was seeking federal grants for small infrastructure projects. Think adding ADA benches to nature trails and curb cuts on old sidewalks, or bridges on walking paths across ditches. I would write the grants and specs. The small staff would help administer the grant. Sometimes they would do the work. Sometimes they would oversee contractors. The grants were extremely clear and included a matching component. Sometimes we would add cash or equipment time or staff time. Sometimes we would have volunteer organizations match with labor. We were doing a bridge grant, and I put the employee, Tim, in charge. It was phase 3 of 3, and we had a lot of experience. There were 21 bridges we were replacing in batches of 7. Tim just had to keep the process going with volunteer match labor hours. The process was practically automatic. All he had to do was show up with materials and stay out of the way. He did an adequate job, barely. I had to keep him on track to stay in spec. We are spending money to improve water quality. He wanted to improve recreation. We sent a lot of emails and texts about it. The department also used project codes to track grant spending. Each grant had a code, and it was very easy to code all the time and materials through the accounting department. The volunteers signed logs each day, and the process was pretty tidy. That fall, Tim continued to struggle with basic tasks and eventually demanded a promotion for his outstanding work. He did not meet the very clear requirements for a promotion, government requirements, through his own laziness, despite being given opportunities to become qualified. Eventually, he became intentionally negligent and put himself and others in danger. I call him into the office after an egregious incident and offered him the opportunity to resign or be fired. Resigning means he could be eligible for rehire in a different department. Fired means he is blacklisted from the city. He refused to resign, and so I terminated him. He seemed shocked. I think he thought it was a bluff or scare tactic. He thought he was a critical cog in the machine, but he was a thorn in my side. His dad is a well-known local attorney. I had pulled Tim's state criminal record, and on close inspection, it was clear Daddy was bailing him out throughout life. Assault charges dropped. DUI pled to a traffic violation. Possession pled to an infraction. Tim decided to come after me. His first move was to call the federal division that oversees my grants and report fraud. They launched an investigation. My records were 1000% immaculate. They called him into a meeting, and his proof of fraud was that he felt that the bridges should have been a lower priority, and the money would be better spent elsewhere, so the fraud was misuse of funds. But the grant specs were followed precisely by him. He had tried to divert funds, and I had stopped him. I had written evidence. The project he had accused on was the literal poster child for success, and was included in a slideshow to the legislature on the success of the grant program. The feds and city powers were livid for wasting time. I had reams of perfect documentation. He was yelled out of the building. Then he filed a wrongful termination suit. He told his dad about the apparent mistreatment, and his dad filed. I contacted the city attorney and dumped hundreds of pages of documentation with the summary in his email. I was in City Hall when Daddy Attorney came slinking out of the legal department, apologizing for his idiot son. I heard from a mutual friend Daddy gave Tim a thorough reaming and withdrew the financial support that had allowed him to live on part-time work. He is doing better today, but right around that time, his wife discovered his ongoing affair. The mistress got pregnant and things got rough. This is really a classic case of someone just thinking they're a total big shot and biting off more than they can chew. And I'd be willing to bet that after all this, his dad's probably not going to be bailing him out of legal trouble anymore, too. Guest spent forever leaving the room after checkout. Now she is spending the night in jail. For context, OP works at a hotel. Guests had been staying with us for a while, paying cash daily, always paying late, but I only really work afternoons and don't ever hear about it. I came in this afternoon at 3 and see her name on the checkout list. She never paid for the room at all today. So I go over to her room and talk to her, and I tell her that if she can't pay for the room right away, she has to leave. She gives the usual sob story of her brother coming to pick her up from a city hours away, and she doesn't know why he isn't here yet. So I play nice. I tell her that if we are talking about a few minutes, we can wait. Otherwise, she needs to leave the room. I gave her a full half hour because this was effectively the first warning. I go back. This is about 3:40 now, and knock. No answer. Knock again. No answer. Knock a third time. No answer. So I open the door, and she is laying out on the bed, totally asleep. She wakes up after I yell at her, and goes back to her routine of, I just need to call someone to get the money. I tell her flat out she needs to leave the room right then. Are you mad at me or something? She asks. I'm not happy with you. I told you a long time ago now to leave, and you aren't even trying to, I said. But I have so much stuff, she says. I brought a cart to help out, but you need to go now, I said. I'm cutting out so much of the witty banter because it really is all that tedious. Can I? No, you need to leave. But I just need, ma'am, it's already 4 p.m. Ha, no way. Yes way. That's funny, and you look so good with your hair. I have been growing my hair out and it is starting to look good, but I wasn't going to take that bait. Ma'am, you need to leave, and if I have to tell you again, I will be calling the police. They're going to arrest me? Probably not, unless you have a warrant. Or you could be an adult and start moving your stuff. I pointedly avoided saying leave the room because of the promise. Well, okay, but first I need to take a shower. No, you are not. If you wanted a shower before you left, you should have done it at 10 a.m., not 4 p.m. I pull out my phone and start dialing the non-emergency number. She goes into the bathroom to pee and acts like I'm going to watch her. I left, since the police were now on their way. Took about a half hour for the cops to come in, and she tries to pretend she can't hear them. We can hear her talking clearly on the other side of the door. She tries to talk to them without unlocking it, and the cops come get me to get the tool to open the security latch. One of these days, I'll make a tool that works better. She does ultimately open the door and talks to the officers. She doesn't see me at first, so she makes it sound like she didn't know it was so late, and that she's just watching for more money. Then she sees me. Oh, he's right there. Cop doesn't care. I already told him that it was too late to pay. We just want her gone. After all, she'll just pull the same stunt tomorrow. The guest nods and says that she'll pack up her stuff, then closes the door on the cop and locks it again. The cop locks eyes with me. Yeah, I'm gonna take her in. I use the tool to get through the latch. It took an embarrassing number of tries, and the cops go into the room and arrest her for trespassing. Oh boy, did this sweet old lady with the high voice and the childlike attitude change into the grouchiest ogre I have seen in years. Cops had her out of the room and started pulling all her stuff to go with her. Customer wants me to pay back my tip. This happened about a year or two ago. I used to be a waitress in a small pizza restaurant. It was fun. I made lots of friends and I knew most of my customers on a first-name basis. Sometimes the owners of the restaurant couldn't have a babysitter for their son, who was about a year old at the time, so they would set up a crib for the baby up on the floor, and I would often make sure he was okay. I didn't have to because his mom was doing it too, but if he dropped a toy or was trying to crawl out, I'd help him out, as long as I wasn't busy. This particular night was pretty busy, but things were starting to slow down. I had a table of 4 middle-aged ladies who were extremely sweet, and they tipped me vigorously. I thought it was amazing. I was grateful, and I personally thought it was because I was working hard. Fast forward a week and a half, and they come in again and ask where my baby is. I said, oh, he's not mine, but he probably has a babysitter today. The one woman then gets extremely upset with me, saying I should have clarified he wasn't mine. I said, I'm 16. If I had a child, trust me, things would be a lot different. She began yelling, saying they wanted her tip back, and I should clarify each time there's a kid here that it's not mine, because it's very misleading. I told them that I wasn't going to do that, because people shouldn't assume a kid is mine just because I help it. My manager, also the mother of the baby, overheard the conversation and came to try to talk to them, but they needed to be escorted out. The story only came to mind recently when I saw that customer at my current job. I work at the hospital in my town now. I held such a grudge I had to refuse care, and they switched my patients around. Well guys, that's it for today. Thanks for watching, I appreciate it. Be sure to drop a like and also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. So have an awesome day everyone, and until next time.